Hi everybody, I'm John Thompson. Wanted to let you guys know that I have been coming up with a couple solutions and some problems that came up in my build on the USS Pennsylvania. As a reminder to everybody, this is part 3 of a series of videos I'm working on. What I did was essentially, I'm going to cover mistakes I've encountered in the kit, unclear directions, and also some other issues I've encountered along the way, and a couple new techniques as well. So my model right now is drying on the workbench, so I really can't show anything to you in terms of the model in this presentation, but here goes. First mistake I made was the boat cranes themselves. Tom's photo etch is a pretty good product. It looks a lot better than the cast cranes, the crude cast cranes that you get from Revell. They're awful. They're really bad. However, there is a problem, and I'm going to show you in a second. I'm going to show the casting right here. Here you see the cast Revell part. Problem here is right in this area here. This round area is actually supposed to be a flat deck with a railing around it. However, the issue with that was that would have required a lot of surgery for me to fix. So what I did was I left that and I put right on the flat part on top of this. I put the circular railing and it seemed to work, and then I attached my crane booms right directly above that, which seemed to work. But all this has to go when you cast, when you work on this. So, and you had the photo etch, so it does make a difference in the model. May not be 100% accurate, but it was sort of a solution. Now, another technique I tried on this model, which I actually haven't tried for some other models, is when you have to paint a bulkhead and then you have to paint the deck. Unfortunately, this model kit does not have a product like Pontos decking. They're very hard to come by because this is actually a very uncommon scale. If this was a 1/350th scale, like by Trumpeter, Tamiya, or any other manufacturer, you'd be able to get those parts very easily. They're very common. This is more of like an obscure kind of scale, so there's going to be very little aftermarket for it. But what I did wind up doing with my deck painting was this. I painted the bulkheads first. In the past, originally, I had painted the deck first, then painted the bulkheads. But the problem is if you get runny paint typically coming down off the bulkhead, it'll run right into the deck, and you get that muddy edge. It doesn't look even and crisp. What I wound up doing in this one was painting the bulkheads first. Then very carefully, using a fine detail brush, I cut in, much like you would do when you paint a house. You know, you paint inside of a room, you cut in close to the area, and you put on the roller for the broad area. So I was able to cut in with a small detail brush very carefully along the edge, and with a very steady hand, you can actually get a very nice result. It does look very professional, and the lines are very clean. One of the other things I wanted to talk to you about was the actual funnel itself. The funnel castings, the assembly that I'm working on, I have been basically putting it together right now. I put the top on. I'm supposed to get a photo etch kit from Gold Medal Models in the mail soon. So what I had to do was, in order to drill out and prepare funnel top for photo etch, I had to actually drill out the molded on top that they had, which is not very accurate anyway. So what I did was I put my X-Acto knife through the center and twirled it a little bit. Unfortunately, it gets a little bit thin near the edge, so when you're twirling with an X-Acto knife there, near the thin edge of plastic, one, you can distort the part, and two, possibly risk cutting yourself with an X-Acto knife. Neither of which are fun, and they definitely will resort to you using the sailor's vocabulary and probably saying a few things that you probably don't want a little kid to hear. So anyway, the thing I did mainly with this was I glued it up and I put it on the top of the mast and on top of the funnel, excuse me, and then I wound up twirling it out just a little bit. I got enough to the point where I can get a drill in there. I found one of my drills basically about the size closest to the hole, and I'm not using a machine to turn the drill. I'm holding the drill bit in my hand and rotating it gently. So the bit will still cut, and it'll just do it at a very slow, much slower speed, much more controlled speed, so I don't get wobble and walk and ruin the part. Now the other thing I did too was I noticed on this model where the little windows are below the searchlight deck, there's a little kind of cabin observation booth type thing that's below the searchlights. What I did was the sides, it looked like there was provision for a window, but for some reason it just wasn't there. So what I did was I took a Sharpie marker and actually made the windows. I just basically colored in that little section black, and it looks fantastic. It looks just like the real thing, and it kind of answers that question there. Now the searchlights are, like I said before, had to be repositioned. They're not on the main mast. There's actually 4 machine guns that have to be made. Now those basically will be scattered throughout the forward superstructure, which is the 3D printed part that I have. Now, as for the rest of the model, I'm just discovering little things here and there that have to be taken care of, and little mistakes or things I have to work around. So it's be definitely an interesting kit when finished. I did put the 38 on the second gun turret. That was basically the one thing I did. Like I said, I was following a picture I saw of Nevada, so that was one of the things that I wound up doing. So other than that, just be careful when you're using the Tom's PE set. I know the directions are not very clear, and it's also not as forgiving. So attachment of that second turret catapult was actually a bit of a challenge as well. So it took a couple tries to get it right and get something that looks decent. As for the assembly itself, I did add those details, and they're painted and they look great. The part looks fantastic. So now I just need to concentrate on the other parts of the ship now. So anyway, this concludes this presentation, and I will definitely show you some more work I've done in part 4. So stay tuned for part 4. Thanks.